Hi everyone, today I'm going to be doing a book haul, but it's a little bit of a different book haul because there's only one thing here that is newly purchased, and that is my Warbreaker Leatherbound that I'll show you at the end of the video. But I also got a bunch of books shipped to me from my childhood home, about 50 pounds of books actually, and I'm going to show you some of those things. So you'll get a little bit of a window into what I owned as a teenager that I haven't had with me since then. This actually came up because my husband was just at his parents' house cleaning out some of his old books and we were going through those shelves. And I happened to mention that to my mom when I was on the phone with her, and it came up that maybe she would like it if I eventually cleared out some of the stuff that's been, in storage with my parents for the last decade. Yeah, we won't go there. So I grew up pretty far away from where I live now. In fact, it's on the other side of the country. So anything that I want, I needed to ask my parents to ship to me. So I thought about what I wanted, and there were a few things that came to mind. I was planning to read more mysteries this year, and I do have a couple of mystery series that I collected in rather large numbers, so I asked for those, and as well as a couple of special editions of things that I bought myself when I was younger and thought it would be nice to finally have with me now that I'm a little more settled down and I'm not moving around quite as much as I was in my 20s. So the first thing I asked for was all the Agatha Christie books that I have, because I know that they're pretty small paperbacks and they're light, and so this is what I got. I actually really remembered having more of these, which makes me think I must have read a large number of Agatha Christie mysteries from the school library or something like that when I was younger, because this is only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 books, and I am positive I've read more than that, unless I just, inflated things in my head, like when you think you've gone to the gym regularly for a long time and it turns out it was just for a week. So the first Agatha Christie book that I ever read was Murder on the Orient Express, which is probably one of her most famous mysteries. I actually picked up this very copy. I was on vacation with my parents as a kid. I don't remember how old I was, but pretty young still. And there was a collection of books at the place we were staying, like books that people had left that you could just take and read. And I don't know if I was supposed to return it to the hotel afterwards, but I didn't. I took it home with me. So I think I even read this on the plane home or something like that. So this is a Hercule Poirot mystery. I really enjoy him as a detective. Definitely more of the classic old school detective story where you have this detective who has powers of, observation and detecting that are beyond what an average human could have, and you kind of only find out the answer and what he's thinking generally at the very end of the mystery where everything gets revealed. So this is very much like Sherlock Holmes. I mean, Poirot has a very different personality, but it's that kind of story where it's kind of a puzzle. You're trying to figure it out, and hypothetically, the author has given you all the clues that you need to solve the mystery yourself, maybe, but usually what actually happens is that there's some excuse for everyone to get called into a room at the end, and the detective reveals all. So Poirot is a very fun detective to read about because he is comically self-absorbed and egotistical, but in kind of a lovable way. And I don't know, I've just always really enjoyed him as a character. We'll see how I feel about it as an adult. Maybe he will actually drive me a little bit crazy now. I think he's supposed to drive you like just a little bit crazy, but you're also supposed to love him. I think the rest of these are, I don't think they're all Poirot, but I think they mostly are. One of her other most famous ones, is And Then There Were None. This also has some less politically correct titles that have since been changed, but this is, again, a classic locked room mystery that you've probably heard of. I think the rest of these are all Poirot, actually. She does have another detective called Miss Marple, who's like an elderly spinster. I never really read as many books about her, but I would be into trying that again as well. And I think she has at least one other detective, or maybe it's a pair of siblings, but I don't think I ever read a single book with them. Okay. So if I was surprised by how few Agatha Christie books I actually owned, I was also surprised by how many books there are in the Amelia Peabody series. Right here, I don't know where it cuts off in the shot, but this is all of them except for 2, which are over on the floor over there, and they are hardcover, and I just this was enough to deal with. So this is one of my favorite series of all time. It follows Amelia Peabody and her family. It's set in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Amelia Peabody starts off as a wealthy English spinster. I mean, she thinks she's a spinster. She's only around age 30. They kind of fudge the ages a little bit as the series goes on because there are so many books that I think the characters sort of have to get made retroactively slightly younger. Anyway, she is a fantastic character. She ends up developing an interest in travel and archaeology, and she meets her husband, an Egyptologist in Egypt, in the first mystery. And from then on, most of the books are set in Egypt as they do various excavations, and also we go through various political events, including World War I. Amelia is a fantastic character. She's a feminist. She is incredibly strong-willed and opinionated and stubborn and tends to always think she's right. She also thinks that she has really great insight when she's often missing completely obvious things about the people around her, but she's also very loving and a really good person. She is probably not the most naturally skilled detective, but throughout the course of this series, the family ends up getting into different scrapes and situations and in the middle of different mysteries, especially murder mysteries, pretty much every season that they go to Egypt, as well as some things back home in England. So this was one of my absolute favorite series growing up. I really enjoyed reading them. I think the audiobooks are also pretty good. I got my parents into the series through the audiobooks as well. And I'd say most of the series is really pretty strong. I do have favorites. I think the last couple of books, the ones that are not here, the series did drop off in quality among the last few. The cast of characters continued to grow throughout the series, and there were just a few too many family members by the last few books. Some of the major character arcs had been resolved, and it was just kind of, a little unnecessary, but also Elizabeth Peters, the author, was kind of getting up there in age, and I think the quality of the books just suffered a little bit in her later years. But overall, there's at least probably 15, 20 really good books in this series. The first one is The Crocodile in the Sandbank. So if you like mysteries, or if you're not even sure you like mysteries, or if you like funny books or history, I think you would probably enjoy this series. So we're about to have another falling book catastrophe here as I tried to take out individual books from this pile. So this might be a lost cause. I think I'm going to put these down now. So now that I've divested myself of that giant pile, here's a couple individual books in the series. Here's the first one, The Crocodile in the Sandbank. I think this is the second one, The Curse of the Pharaohs. Might be the third one. Pretty sure it's the second one. You can see, they pretty much, I don't know what the editions look like now, but they pretty much are of a type. You can tell. Same mystery series. And then later on in the series, we have some books that look a little more like this. We get to a point in the series where some of the younger family members start having third-person points of view, as well as Amelia's first-person narration. The conceit behind the whole series is that these are her journals that have been discovered and are getting published. It's actually kind of similar to the memoirs of Lady Trent, if that's a series that you've been interested in. I actually found a lot of similarities behind the concepts of those two series, although this one is historical mystery and that is sort of a alternate historical fantasy. And of course, I think the Amelia Peabody series is intended to be a lot more humorous. So now on to some more special edition type things, which is probably what you've been waiting for. This probably is not what you've been waiting for, but I did get it and it weighed like 28 pounds. So here goes. When I was in my teens, I decided what I really wanted was a set of complete Shakespeare, and I didn't want just a single volume with all the plays. I wanted these individually bound editions, so I splurged and bought this for myself. This is only a small fraction. I didn't count, but I did count before filming today, and there are 38 volumes in this set, so no wonder that weighed a lot. The only book that I've had with me for all of these years is the sonnets, which I just took out of the set and kept with me when I moved around. I've always been very attached to the sonnets, probably my favorite Shakespeare, although I do love the plays. So I haven't nearly read every play by Shakespeare. I feel like there's some that nobody has read or seen. Maybe I'll get to it eventually, but I'm dropping things again. I do think these are really nice books. There's, nice, pretty, what do you call that? I don't know. The inside of the cover. Pretty nice paper. Got some notes. It has the bookmark. So it's a nice edition. I have whatever 38 minus this is still on the shelf in the other room. But it makes the bookshelf look nice and full, and it's very attractive. But no, I really did want to have these editions where it's really nice quality, but I could still take a single volume and carry it around if I wanted to and read it, because I think having a full book just isn't that readable, and usually the print is really small. And I don't know, I guess I could have just got an all paperback set, but I kind of appreciate the fact that I was a teenager that wasn't afraid to spend money on books. Also, I was horribly afraid of how my parents would judge me if I ever spent money on something like video games. So in the vein of something that I decided to splurge on for myself as a teenager, I have this lovely 50th anniversary edition of The Lord of the Rings. This is actually the third copy of Lord of the Rings that I've owned. Well, the first one wasn't technically mine. The first one I ever read was the set that my parents had. I'll see, maybe I'll be able to find a picture of the edition and put it up on the video. So that's what I first read growing up. And then in my early teens, I got completely obsessed with the movie series. I think I've mentioned this before, but I had the VHS tape of The Fellowship of the Ring, and I watched it something like 17 times in a row. So yeah, I wasn't obsessive at all, I swear. So after that, I bought myself movie tie-in paperbacks because I really wanted to see the actors and the characters. And then a few years after that, I decided to get this, which is honestly very nice. It has the gilded edges. This is not quite up to the quality of a Brandon Sanderson Leatherbound in terms of the deluxeness of this. I'm pretty sure this costs around $50 to $75 today, but it's still a really lovely book. And until I got my first Brandon Sanderson Leatherbound, this was probably the fanciest, or at least fanciest looking book that I had. So you can see there's this design with the rings and the inscription on the front. On the back, there's a Tolkien signature. And there aren't too many special features in this book. There is a little bit of red print throughout. And then there are these fold-out maps, which I will try to show. Actually, the very first time, I think I got this when I was 15, the very first time I opened this, the map in the front started to tear, and that was 15 years ago, and I'm still a little bit sad about it. But okay, I'm gonna remove that. So I'm gonna see, without tearing it too much more, here is a little bit of a view of the map of Middle-earth. I think this one is Middle-earth. I'm not looking at it right now, but I think this one was the bigger map. Let's see. Yeah, that is the west of Middle-earth. Okay, now we're gonna fold this back in. Other than that, I think the only art or anything in this volume there's these photographs of, I think these are paintings that Tolkien did of the Book of Mazarbul, which I think this is Dwarvish stuff in the Mines of Moria. Well, this looks like a mix. At least some of it looks like it's intended to be runes. And then there's another map in the back. Yeah, this is really hard to show. I'm contorting myself here. So this is a map of Rohan, Gondor, and Mordor. And I'm probably really close to the microphone right now, so I'm sorry. And it does really want to tear when I fold it out. I'm being pretty careful, and just something about how this is attached. So if you do decide to get this, be careful. So that is the 50th anniversary edition of Lord of the Rings. And I still think this is a really beautiful book. And actually, compared to the Brandon Sanderson Leatherbounds, I'm actually a little bit less afraid to physically read out of this. We do have some paperbacks here in the house that are my husband's copies of Lord of the Rings, so probably I'd go to those first and leave this a little more pristine. But this is something I think I have read out of it before, and I'm not as afraid to sit and read this as the Leatherbounds. So now we have the thing that you've probably all been waiting for, which is why I put it last, of course, in the video, because if I put this first, you all would have stopped watching. So I had told myself that I was never going to spend money on a Brandon Sanderson Leatherbound. And then our friend Daniel bought me this beautiful copy of Elantris for my birthday. And from that moment, I knew that I was screwed. And my husband told me that he's pretty sure we're going to end up with all of them eventually. And he's probably right. So as a little holiday present for myself, I bought Warbreaker. So this is honestly just as beautiful as the Elantris Leatherbound. I love them both. Now that I'm doing this haul, I can put this on its shelf back here. I've been hiding it for a little while because I didn't want to do a video just with this. So you can see we have a color theme of purple, and there's a sword. And if you've read Warbreaker, you know which sword that is. Also has the gold edges where Elantris has silver. And just the feel of the leather is honestly amazing. I love the purple as well. I'm definitely a bright colors kind of girl, so I enjoy that. I do think I'm gonna end up probably with the Mistborn trilogy set at some point, and I think those colors are a little more subdued, but you know. Then we have, you can see I barely opened this because I don't like the feeling of the spine crackling. We have some different cover art. They always do art from different international covers. I think, I'm not sure, this one here, if you can see it, is probably the UK cover, I think. I think this is probably intended to be Vasher. And the color of the text, you know, when it's not black, is set in purple. And one of the really fun things about this book is that the words of the God King are set in purple. Without spoiling anything, if you haven't read Warbreaker yet, the God King doesn't say very much, so I won't say why, but there's kind of a special moment then when you get to that in this book and suddenly his words are in purple, like he has so much biochromatic breath, it's just like leaking onto the page. So I think that's really amazing. Let me see if there's any more art that I want to show. Here's a painting of the city, and we have the God King and Ciri in the Court of Gods. And I just realized there's probably some inherent spoilers in the fact that I'm showing this to you, but I assume if you're interested, maybe you know the story already. And then here we have Nightblood. And I just want to show you, this is what the start of the chapters looks like, which is really gorgeous. There's a little bit more art in here as well, but I want to kind of save that. But just look at the colors in this thing. It's beautiful. The really funny thing is, here's the paperback of Warbreaker, and this is not the greatest cover. I think everyone can agree. It's kind of like, doesn't make you want to pick this book up. Maybe the fact that he already released this book under like a Creative Commons license and it was available to read for free online, maybe they just didn't put a lot of budget into the cover art. I don't know. But when you get the same thing in this, it's kind of pretty. So yeah, I don't know. I love this. I did a video recently about how I thought Warbreaker was probably the most underrated Cosmere book. It's always been a favorite of mine, so I'm really, really happy that I have this now. And yeah, I'm probably going to keep buying these, but I'm going to pace myself. It helps that the rest of them are all sold out right now, so there's nothing I can do. And it'll probably only be next holiday season when The Way of Kings actually becomes available, because I was controlling myself and I didn't buy it on the Kickstarter this year. So that's my book haul for today. I am now, you can't see the floor, but I am surrounded by piles of toppled books, mostly Elizabeth Peters. But I hope you enjoyed getting to see some of these things, some of the mystery series, and of course, this beautiful buttery leatherbound. And thanks for watching.